What if the closest people in your life aren't actually family, technically? Meri had some words about her kiddos recently, and they're leaving people scratching their heads. Who is she referring to exactly? And why do some relationships feel more meaningful than others? We're exploring names, identity, respect, and all the complicated stuff people tend to avoid. Trust me, this one's got layers. There's a lot to untangle today, so let's dive in. Hi everyone, what's new? It's me, welcome back to the channel. So, Meri's been giving us updates on the carriage house renovations, and while doing that, she made a little comment that really stood out. She told us she's keeping the space for those who actually care, people who are actually invested. And let's be real, it didn't sound like she was talking about anyone from the family. Then the punchline: obviously my kiddos know. Kiddos, as in plural? Who is she talking about? Just Leon and Audrey? Or are there others in her inner circle? Now it's obvious Meri has a casual, friendly energy with Gwen, and maybe even Gwendolyn's fiancé. I really wouldn't be surprised if she talks with them in person, without Christine being brought in on it at all. And she does sometimes call Leon and Audrey her kiddos, which is nice and probably who she was thinking of. But let's also not forget, Meri's also been friends with Janelle's sons, and even Aspen. Her universe of connectivity is larger than people give her credit for. Fast aside note, how odd is it that English doesn't have a more descriptive word for an adult child? I mean, your kid might be 40 and you'd still pick up the phone like, "Hey baby, once baby, always baby, huh?" Meri's long treated most of the older children like family, and that is truly special. So when she uses kiddos in the plural, she's almost certainly including Audrey as well. I just wish we saw more of those authentic moments. There's something truly significant there. Hopefully, they feel as much about her as well. We already know that some of the older children have spoken positively about their relationship with Meri. Logan even indicated that her house was a safe haven when things were out of control in the family. That's a lot to say about her character and how she showed up for them when it truly mattered. And let's be real, after enduring years of Kokorach and Soen, yeah, we're going there, it's no wonder she was emotionally exhausted. Especially once Robin stopped even pretending to be emotionally present in the relationship. Meri should have walked away and started living her best life ages ago. Now, let's get back to the kiddos conversation. There's always a little confusion around Leon, who used to be Mariah, and Audrey. Folks get tripped up on pronouns or hold on to the old names. But here's the thing. It's not Leon, who used to be Mariah. It's simply Leon. Being respectful of someone's name and pronouns isn't about surgeries or looks. It's about being respectful of their truth. Some people believe Meri could be using kiddos to be clever and avoid using Leon's name or to avoid admitting their identity. But that doesn't wash with me. Meri has been outspoken and supportive. She corrects people when they get it wrong and clearly appears proud to stand up for Leon. Clearly, she's talking about Leon and Audrey, and perhaps a few others she cares about. Let's be real. When your kid does switch the name you so lovingly selected for them, it's going to bring up some deep feelings. But at the end of the day, it's their life, their identity, their decision. It's fine for parents to take time to adjust. What isn't fine is laying the emotional load on the child. And from what we've observed, Meri appears to have done her emotional homework. She's arriving now as a supportive, grounded parent. I get that some folks still view Meri as weak or clingy in relation to Kody, particularly due to her handling of the quilt debacle. But really, I truly believe that was one of the greatest under-the-radar power plays any of the wives ever made. It was calculated. It was subtle. Deafeningly ruthless. Consider it. If she'd torched the quilt or thrown it away, Kody could have used that as evidence she was still emotionally entangled. When she returned it intact, he could have actually laid Robin's bits on top of hers. But what does she do? Remain calm and cool, and then disassemble it. She preserved the pieces that were important to her and gave him scraps. No drama. Dignity. The crowd forgets that move, but it was strong. She didn't react to him. She maintained her story and left Kody with nothing to manipulate. He didn't get his satisfaction. He couldn't accuse her of being bitter. He couldn't accuse her of being holding on. All he was left with was a box of leftover fabric scraps. And for real? When a woman quietly gathers her belongings, walks out with not even a single dramatic flair, and gives you nothing to feed on, that's when you know she's really done. I wish Meri would take those scraps and make something completely new out of them. Maybe even a quilt made of pieces from her journey. One with fabric from Stonehenge or Paris. That'd be legendary. There is this myth out there that if you don't cry or punch back, somehow you lost the fight. But really, the true antithesis of love is not hate. It's indifference. And Meri's response to Robin's adorable little jump journal present? Indifference. No tears, no blow up. She just didn't care. And that kind of cool detachment? That is true power. And then there's Kody, throwing out that passive-aggressive remark about how maybe one of the other wives would be interested in the shirts. That was practically guaranteed to be directed at Robin, his sole remaining wife and the only one still playing games. But let's get real. Robin's desire for that quilt? It's not about memories or love. It's about control, power, rewriting the story, and attempting to replace what was with something she prefers to define as reality. There's a massive difference between Meri's steady, soulful approach to quilting and Robin's surface-level performances. Quilting takes time, intention, and heart, qualities Meri's always brought to the table. Robin? Not so much. Her pattern has always been the same, grabbing hold of traditions, bending family stories to center herself, and acting like history started the moment she showed up. She's attempted to remake the past, control the present, and dictate the future. But Meri? She exited the narrative. Her peaceful, deliberate unpicking of the quilt wasn't a performance. It was a declaration. She was declaring, I'm finished. I'm taking what belongs to me. You can have the scraps. No theatrics, no stage. Just quiet determination and personal autonomy. But the worst part of this is that Kody gets to run. He dodges the hard feelings, jumping from wife to wife without actually facing the accountability for his actions. Meri had to sit with hers, process it, and move above it. And the way she did that? That's what healing looks like. That's real resilience. She spent years giving everything to a man who ultimately came out and said he never loved her. And now she's done. Ripping that quilt into shreds was her way of closing the door. Not a grand going-away speech, just quiet, firm action. Kody thought he was entitled to tears, perhaps a breakdown. But what does he receive? A package of scraps of fabric and not a single emotional spark. And that's how you handle narcissists. You go all gray rock, remain immobile, offer nothing, deprive them of oxygen. Meri acquitted herself superbly. She gave back what was his and kept what mattered, her effort, her memories, her love. The thing is, unless you've dealt with narcissists firsthand, it's easy to miss how much they depend on emotional responses. They feed off the drama. It's how they stay in control. But Meri? She stepped out of that dynamic. She took herself off the menu entirely. This quilt drama also highlights an underlying issue: how some individuals attempt to erase all traces of previous relationships so they may own the story in its entirety. Robin isn't keeping fabric for herself. She's attempting to own the narrative, the heritage, the emotional history. But that's not what plural marriage was all about. It's not oneness, it's domination. And Meri's response to that? A subtle, elegant, no thanks. It wasn't obnoxious. It wasn't sloppy. But it was powerful. She didn't give them anything they wished for. She gave them precisely What they had coming to them? Nothing. And look where we are now, with Kody out here freely confessing to needing constant attention. Shocker, right? That's most likely why he did so well in polygamy. It stroked his ego. Wives competing for his attention, children rotating around him like planets. He believed he was the sun. But when the children matured, became capable of thinking for themselves, when the wives ceased revolving around him, he disintegrated. Because here's the thing about narcissists. They will tell on themselves if you listen closely. They'll tell you things like, "If I don't love you, it's your fault." That's not love speaking, that's ego. That's manipulation masquerading as truth. Empathy? Not on his vocabulary list. Kody doesn't like people. Kody likes being looked at, being reflected back through them. And when the reflection dulls, when people lose their admiration and cease to contort themselves to make him happy, he disintegrates. Let's not forget the most revealing moment. Kody had his own children out looking for a church. Not a church that would serve their spiritual needs, but one that would not exclude him. It's always about him. Always. Now there are rumors going around that he's crashing. The boozing's increased. His last decent marriage? On the rocks. And here's why. Kody doesn't desire a partner. He desires a crowd. And when that spotlight fades, so does his own sense of identity. Balancing 4 weddings was never about family building. It was ego maintenance. And let's be real, responsibility has never been at the top of Kody Brown's to-do list. Now Kody's trapped in this dead marriage with Robin, and come on, it's hanging on by a thread. And honestly, it's not all on her. Kody sucked the life out of her. She's miserable looking. He's like he's always eyeing the exit. And the minute anything gets even slightly tense, he's fantasizing about ditching again. Imagine that. A narcissist who used to hunger for attention is now a punchline in walking form. He can't even go grocery shopping without someone whispering or smiling. For a man who thrived on adoration, the humiliations must sear. I give him and Robin 2 years. 2 years maximum. Possibly less. Yes, Robin may hold on a little longer, but come on. She's got narcissistic tendencies as well. She just keeps them better hidden. They are both holding on to what money they can still siphon off the remains of their old relationships. But if someone richer, more flashy, or more flattering came along, Robin would disappear in an instant. And Kody? 1 foot out the door already. He's not only discontent, he's jealous. Straight up resentful about Christine living her best life while he's stuck with a partner who's no longer worshiping him. This man flourished in discord, in a harem of women fawning over him day in and day out. But Robin's tired of playing that game. Now she holds him responsible for abandoning their religious heritage and for dismantling what little remained of the family. The minute the TLC checks dry up, their relationship will fall apart with it. Robin may even make Kody's life so miserable that he packs it in, on her terms. Then she retains the house, the children, and likely half of everything else. But here's the surprise. They'll still be bankrupt. No show, no income. And let's face it, Kody isn't exactly employable. He's not running a business. He's not clocking into a 9-to-5. Remember when the show tried to pretend he had a job? Now it's just beer, a dad bod, and a guy who once said he wanted 100 kids so no one could ever say no to him. That line is still one of the wildest things I've ever heard, especially before coffee. Once upon a time there was a spark in Kody, but roughly 2016 is when the light went out, and it's been a gradual, sorrowful slide into darkness since. Folks like to point fingers at Robin and say it was her fault, but honestly, it was always Kody running the ship straight at the iceberg. He insisted on obedience, promoted a patriarchal agenda, and wanted everyone to toe the line. Robin merely followed the script, not because she loved the man, but because she knew it. The show still draws ratings, but come on, these last few seasons, all depressing. Those cringeworthy but cute early episodes are a thing of the past. It's all crash and burn drama now, and the only reason folks keep watching, to see the wives set themselves free and take back their lives. Honestly, the Vegas cul-de-sac was the beginning of the end. When every wife had her own home, her own rules, her own beat, that's when things began to change. It gave them room, autonomy, and liberty. And Kody loathed it. As soon as they ceased to live under one roof in Utah, the intimacy dissipated. Meri isolated herself. Robin maintained her distance except where the cameras insisted she be present. Therapy didn't work. It only made everything feel more burdened. Then Flagstaff, and with it, an entirely new degree of despondency. Kody came from a gigantic family, one of 12, and there's little doubt he wasn't the favorite. So what did he do? Did it all over with his children too? Favoritism. Neglect. Even Mykelti was unimpressed. He used one wife to get out of being with another, lied about his whereabouts, played games that weren't exactly cheating, but weren't honest either. Just childishness. Escape maneuvers. Teenager attitude in an adult man's frame. And now that the funds are dwindling, he's not even likely around Robin all that often. She beat the man. Only to find he's a handful of letdown and emotional dead weight. She's raising children she won't allow to mature and somehow manages to be fine with misery. But when those kids depart? That marriage? Finito. Kody requires constant attention just to exist. For years, every scene was about him, his wants, his emotions, his drama. The wives were secondary characters in his life until they lived their own lives and quit making him the focus. That is when the breaking apart started. He accuses Utah of driving them out, but the reality? He wanted to be in the limelight. He could have gone incognito, avoided the headlines, but that was not enough. His ego required a stage. Leaving Vegas? Huge mistake. They had the ideal storm there, drama, dysfunction, and just the right amount of chaos to make Kody feel like royalty. The cover story was it was for the kids' education, but come on, Kody just wanted to go back to one big house where he could get to feel boss again. But the wives? They'd tasted independence already, and they weren't about to let that slip. Kody continued to bounce the family around, believing a different address would somehow solve all the issues. But wherever the zip code, the issue was always him. Whenever a wife resisted, he'd retreat to another one. When his children began drifting away, he'd huddle with the younger ones, who still regarded him as their hero. But even that could not last forever. It's genuinely painful to witness. A mature man unwilling to admit the devastation that he's created in the lives of more than 20 individuals. Christine, Janelle, Meri, they were finally free. Kody, though? Still pursuing camera attention, still gushing about how much attention he requires. And seriously, Robin and her children will never satisfy that bottomless emptiness. He was the sun, the center of that plural galaxy of wives. But now, that star system has collapsed. Think back to those painful Halloween specials where the entire family faked it being okay, insincere smiles, obligatory costumes, strained laughter. Kody was radiant then, living for the fantasy. Now he's just a dude frantically texting ex-wives, asking for allegiance, playing games with whoever still plays along. The harder he attempts to be the headliner, the quicker all of them flee. And the dancing, oh, the dancing, the oddity, perpetually out of sync dancing, that, and the fact that he tried to keep the entire family in lockdown during COVID, even when Isabel required surgery, but then flipped and presided over a friend's wedding as if nothing was going on. Classic Kody. Priorities scattered everywhere. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if he sold Coyote Pass to some fly-by-night developers just to get out. The land was going to be this great vision, their future. Now, Another broken promise, another trigger word, and let's be honest, that land was never going to get developed. Don't be surprised if Kody cheats or begins searching for wife number 5. He's hooked on the chase, the competition, the attention. Robin proved to be not so magical after all, and now he's got no one left to blame. When men require a steady supply of partners, polygamy or plain old cheating, it's typically covering something more substantial. Insecurity, nothingness, perhaps even secrets he has yet to confront. Would it actually be surprising if Kody had been living in the closet all along? If that's the case, okay, but don't create a trail of emotional destruction in your wake. To see him running from home to home like an overactive puppy speaks volumes. Peaceful? Never his style. And no, I never did believe the whole "he spends every moment at Robin's" act. She had her man-child, and now she's saddled with raising the kids and him. They're both miserable. And the moment those kids are off and out of the house, that marriage is going to implode. And then there's the quilt. Kody's fixation on it is strange, but revealing, like a mosquito that simply must buzz along to get noticed. But the twist is this: the quilt was not even completed. For anyone who has never quilted, this is how you do it. First, you stitch the top, a mosaic of vintage pieces, such as t-shirts, into two-dimensionality. Then you add batting, the soft, warm middle, and backing fabric. You loosely baste the 3 layers together, and then you quilt them up with careful, small ditches. And lastly, you put binding on the edges to prevent it from coming undone. The one Kody received? No binding. Absolutely unfinished. If Meri actually intended to have it finished, it would have been bound. Or if she already had it finished, she wouldn't have needed to cut it up for the show. That in itself speaks volumes. So why would Kody want it back? Most folks don't go seeking out exes for sentimental items, unless to twist the knife. Perhaps, one of the other wives had desired the shirts for a new family memories quilt, attempting to rewrite the narrative Kody's always attempted to impose upon everyone. But realistically, there wasn't enough fabric to go around. It wasn't about the quilt. It was about power, control. Another jab at Meri to get a reaction out of him. Because if Kody really didn't give a damn, he wouldn't continue to stir the pot. Now here's the thing about those old bear t-shirt quilts. Basically impossible to work with. That sort of fabric stretches, and that means every cut, every stitch requires stabilizers and plenty of patience. Piecing the top? Sufficiently time-consuming. But the actual quilting through all the layers, that's where the heavy lifting resides. Some people hand quilt, some machine quilt, or even hire experts with long-arm machines. In hot climates, sometimes they just omit the thick batting and merely tie the layers rather than stitching. But whatever, binding the edge, that's always the final step. And that quilt? It never reached the finish line. To disassemble a quilt that had been worked on for years would be harsh, but perhaps it was never completed emotionally either. Meri did not use a seam ripper to dismantle it gently. She used scissors. That was not salvaging memories. That was a declaration, a period. Whether or not she put the binding on for shooting or never even had a chance to do so is not the point. That quilt was something more than pieces of cloth. It was built upon time, work, history, and suffering. And still, it wasn't finished. Perhaps because it hurt so much, because something worked on for years, stretched to the breaking point and imperfect, becomes greater than a work of craft. It becomes legend, a legend that never got a good ending. So what do you think about it? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to give that like button a click, subscribe if you aren't already, and I'll see you in the next one.